Okay, welcome to the TaroWorks customer sharing session about managing product distribution using mobile technology. I'm Elaine Chang, the manager for global market development at TaroWorks. We hold these customer sharing sessions for our TaroWorks users to share the great work that they're doing and to highlight an interesting way that they're using TaroWorks so that others in the community can learn from them. So today we're excited to be joined by Leah Newman, who's the Director for Strategy and Innovation at Peripheral Vision International, and she'll give you more details about her work there. So I have just a few housekeeping items, and while I do that, I'm going to open a poll. Oops. Okay, so you should see that on your screen now. And that's just so we can gauge what kinds of challenges you're facing around tracking distribution in the field. So in terms of housekeeping, we are recording this session. Another thing is that everybody is on mute automatically, so if you have a question, please type it in. And at the end of Leah's presentation, I'll unmute you to ask it. And I'll remind you at the end, but when asking your question, please introduce yourself and your organization. And then, oh yeah, and I mentioned that we'll just take the questions at the end, although you can put in your questions at any time. Okay, so let me see, let me close this poll. Let me share the results and let's see what we have. Oops. Okay, so it looks like the biggest issue is having too many items to track, so too many SKUs, but a lot of the other ones too. Okay, so that's interesting. And that's great to know. Okay, let me now switch my keyboard and mouse over. To Leah.
Okay, good morning everyone, or good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yeah, do you have control over the keyboard and mouse?
I think so.
Okay, great. All right, take it away.
There's a delay on my side, so. Okay, well, hello everyone. My name is Leah. I work for Peripheral Vision International. I will tell you a bit more about the organization as we go along. Today we're talking about managing product distribution using mobile, specifically how to track repeat distribution to our member businesses using barcodes. So let's see if this works if I click next. I'm not sure what you guys are seeing. I'm still seeing the main screen. Maybe, Elaine, you can just click next for us.
Oh, it should be in the next slide now.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just let you click through for next from here on out. So a bit about PVI. We were founded in 2011 with the objective to transform Uganda's media landscape. We use innovative products and platforms and distribution systems to promote human rights, to empower marginalized communities, and especially to help social change advocates reach their target audiences in ways that others are not doing. To date, we've partnered with more than 30 Ugandan CBOs and international NGOs, a diverse range of researchers and academics to do product production, distribution, and research. And ultimately, our goal is to build capacity to effectively facilitate social and behavior change. We can go to the next slide. Today, we'll be talking specifically about one of our programs. Even though we do production of public service announcements, we actually have a rap news show on NTV, which is Uganda's most watched television station here. The project that we'll specifically be focusing on today is Crowd Pullers. Crowd Pullers is a physical DVD. It is an hour long. It contains 12 Ugandan music videos that are chosen because of their popularity. And then between each music video is a short public service announcement or other piece of news, educational entertainment, something that is relevant to the consumers. And then the advocacy segments themselves, they address a range of issues. We are currently working with CEDU, the Citizens Coalition for Electoral Democracy in Uganda, promoting some voter education issues. We've worked with UNFPA on family planning issues. We've done reproductive health, youth entrepreneurship, gender equality, a whole range of topics. Crowd Pullers itself is just the distribution platform. And since its launch in 2011, we have distributed to well over 45,000 DVDs to over 25,000 screens. And those screens are all public venues. So video halls, bars, restaurants, beauty salons, barber shops, retail shops, service shops, buses, schools, basically anywhere where you go and see a screen and a DVD player. For those of you who work outside of East Africa, this is a really common form of technology still. I know other parts of the world have moved on from DVDs, but here you can find a TV and a DVD player almost everywhere. And we can go to the next slide. For those of you who don't know what a video hall is, in Uganda, many people lack access to electricity in their homes, but in their areas and their villages, there will always be what's called a chibanda, a video hall. They look like this. They're generally just small shacks with small televisions. Sometimes there's multiple televisions. There'll be a lot of people crowded around. You can pay a few cents and go see a football match or an American action movie. And before the movie or the football game comes on, they play Ugandan music videos to draw the crowd. And so the idea was that we would put these social messages between the music videos so that while people were being drawn in to the video hall, they would also receive these positive messages. This then expanded to all of those different types of screens because while we were out distributing to Bibandas, we might as well drop this same product at the beauty salon and the bar and the restaurant and the bus and all of these other places. We can go next, just to give you an idea about where we have distributed, basically everywhere in Uganda. And again, if you know Uganda at all, you know that some of these areas are incredibly remote and rural. The kind of north part of Uganda, most of those areas don't even have grid electricity. But people have solar-powered and generator-powered TVs and DVD players or small DVD players. And in some ways, those are even better to reach because the other forms of entertainment are limited and people are very interested in this product. And so you have a very captive audience for this message. If we can go to the next, I'll give you a very short overview of how we got to where we are now in terms of distribution and data collection. Originally, when we first started distribution, it was paper forms, as any small operation tends to start with. We quickly moved to a data collection system based on ODK, Open Data Kit. I'm using ODK Collect and Form Hub, which was, I believe, started by Columbia. or some researchers at Columbia. And when I first came on in August of last year, FormHub was having a lot of technical difficulties, and there was obviously a need to switch directions. And as I went through and analyzed some of the data, I realized that ultimately what we were tracking was individual disks that were going out, but we weren't creating a database of businesses. We weren't tracking, this disk went to this business and then this disk to the same business, just understanding where each individual disk went. So my goal in coming up with a new system was to be able to track this type of repeat distribution. And we also definitely wanted to be able to increase the oversight of our brand ambassadors, who are our field agents who do the distribution on the ground, and empower them and give them tools that, give them a little bit more information. But ultimately, we really wanted to be able to measure the impact of the messages. And unless you know exactly which messages have been distributed, to where and for how long, it's very hard to take that next step to understand the impact that those messages are having on the community. Ultimately, we want to know if the Crowd Pullers DVDs, that the messages that they contain are having some sort of change on people's attitudes or behaviors. And without understanding all of those first steps, we can't get to that last one. And then our last goal was to have a quick rollout. We really were wanting to scale this product very quickly, and I originally had signed up for a short-term contract, and so this all went from my first conversations with Elaine and others at TaroWorks to complete rollout in the field in a little under 3 months, actually. So if you go to the next slide. I will not go too into all of the details for those of you who are not yet fully integrated with TaroWorks and Salesforce. This might be a little bit too detailed, but if people have more questions about the objects that we created and how we're using them, I'm happy to answer those at the end. But obviously our solution was Salesforce and TaroWorks. And we kind of refined our entire system of distribution, of data collection, and of data footage. I wanted Salesforce because I wanted to start tracking businesses, not disks. And TaroWorks was a very easy transition for us because of the ease of use and because of its integration to Salesforce. Basically, that's how it looks as a schema for us. We have our business object. In our business object, we have disks that look up to it. So every time a business receives a disk, that relationship is automatically tracked in Salesforce. Additionally, the disk looks up to a volume. So every 2 weeks, a new volume comes out. It has different music, different messages. We want to know the content that was put on that volume, the disks that are connected to that volume, and the businesses that receive those disks. So I'll just say that once more, just as you're looking at the picture, just so you can understand the complication of this, so that when we get into the problems that we've been having, you'll understand a little bit more. We track in Salesforce the content that goes on each volume, like an episode. We then tell Salesforce all the disk numbers related to that volume. We then, as we distribute, each business and each disk are tagged and connected so that when we open a business, when we go to Elaine's beauty salon, we can see how many times she received a disk when she received it, and then we know which content she also received. So again, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer that, but that gives you a little bit of an overview of how we created this whole system. So we can go next. Obviously, what we are here to talk about today is about the distribution aspect of this, not all of the back end. So for us, the question is, you know, how to track the individual businesses. And the answer is right to the right there. We're using individual QR codes. So next line. And individual QR codes, in our case, are placed on what we call a member ID sticker. So this is a picture of a business receiving their first DVD. So this would be the first time that we ever go somewhere. There's our brand ambassador, and she has the DVD and this member ID sticker. Each sticker has a unique QR code on it, and once the DVD is given to the business owner, that sticker is placed somewhere on the business, ideally somewhere safe, inside on the countertop or behind glass or on the inside of the door, but somewhere where we can find it again. We can go next. To give you an idea of what that sticker looks like close up, this was our first rendition. It's about 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters. It has our logo, a member ID number, and that number corresponds exactly to the QR code. So if anyone has a QR reader on their phone up, if you wave it over that little code, you'll get the number to the left. We chose QR codes instead of barcodes for a few reasons. One is that they allow letters as well as numbers. So this is our system for Uganda. When we go to Tanzania, it will be TZ and the number. And as we continue to expand, we want to make sure that we allow space for that. The other is that it's really easy for the mobile phones to read it. I played around a lot with barcodes. We'll talk more about barcodes as we continue. But you basically wave the phone anywhere near the QR code and it pops up. As you saw from the image business, sometimes the lighting might be too bright, it might be too dark, it might be, you know, hard to kind of angle depending on where the sticker goes, and the QR code was just the easiest way for us to avoid problems. If we go to the next slide, we'll talk, obviously, start with the positives. So the positives for us were that the staff responded really well. They did need training, but more about the general system and less about the tool itself, because they were already using ODK Collect. The actual mobile tool was fairly easy. What we needed training on and to understand as a team was this concept of businesses instead of disks, of the need to be able to collect really clean data so that we can go back and analyze it. One of the things that PVI is doing now is we've just hired a director of research, and we will be doing a lot of analysis on content and distribution strategies. And the basis for being able to do that is to have this database of businesses. Obviously, you know, it's a new system. We were trying new things. There were initial errors. Some of those were mapping errors that I had made in forms. Some of that was confusion because it was a new system of syncing data and losing internet connection and then creating an error on the form, and our brand ambassadors not understanding that deleting forms was a really bad idea. So then they went to do an existing form and there was no parent form, and so they have errors building up on their phones. So of course, some of those things are bound to happen. Again, happy to answer questions about some of the other initial errors that we've been getting through and proving on. But generally, it was pretty flawless, and our repeat distribution is already incredibly more efficient. For regions where we have brand ambassadors stationed and they're doing almost exclusively repeat distribution to businesses they've already been to every 2 weeks, they have increased their ability to distribute discs by over 100%. So if they were doing 40 to 50 discs in a day, they can now do well over 100. And obviously the QR code decreases human error considerably. Rather than put in a long member ID number on a small phone, you know, with a Samsung keyboard, and you accidentally type the number and now that data is all messed up, all they have to do is swipe the phone over the code. And with that in mind, that's kind of our goal going forward, to make sure that we can use this tool and use barcodes specifically to continue to decrease human errors. We can go next. Right after problems, or right after benefits are, of course, the problems that we had with the member ID stickers. So about one to 2 months after initial distribution started with TaroWorks and the member ID stickers, we started noticing that many were missing. So we would go back to the business. We know that we had been there because they would have the last disc, or they were recognized in other ways, and the sticker would be there. In some areas, this was up to 1/3 of the businesses were missing a member ID sticker. So, you know, one of the benefits of having this easy data collection system is we made a quick survey. We sent our brand ambassadors out. We collected hundreds of surveys to understand why. And some of the problems were simple. They weren't sticky enough stickers. You saw a picture of the business before. Some of the walls are dirt or mud, and the stickers just weren't staying on the wall. That's just a condition of working in Uganda, especially in remote areas. In some cases, the owners didn't approve of the stickers. So when we visited, the employee said, yes, I would love a disc, and I'd go ahead and put your sticker on the wall. And then the owner would return in the evening and say, what is this? And take it down. As with working in anywhere in the world, there's always cultural issues that you maybe can't foresee. In this case, we discovered that in some areas of Uganda, people believe in something called numbers disease. This disease occurs when you wake up with numbers either on your arm or elsewhere on your body, and it is indicative of the number of days you have left to live. And so by handing out a sticker with a long number on it, we were essentially sentencing people to die. So that was not good. But mostly the stickers were just stolen. They were very cool. They're bright, they're pink and orange, they have this weird moon man with a Ugandan flag, and kids just thought it was cool and were just peeling them off the walls and putting them on their motorcycle helmets or wherever and taking them away. So if we go next, we can see that we have, you know, tried to mitigate this problem as best we can. So our next step is obviously new member ID stickers. These are what our new ones look like. They're considerably less cool, and so far so good. Nobody wants to steal these ones. And we are also putting 2 per business. The idea is that we put 1 on the DVD player and we put 1 on the business. The reason to not put it solely on the DVD player is because in a lot of businesses they take it home at night because it's such a big asset and bring it back. There's a lot of space for it to get broken, stolen, all of those things. So we leave 1 on the DVD player and we put 1 on the business wall or counter as well, because they're small and black and white and the number is smaller. It doesn't say member ID. They kind of just blend in. Coca-Cola has similar stickers near the refrigerators that they give to businesses. Umeme, the electric company, puts similar stickers. So ours kind of just blends in now. It's considerably less flashy, less conspicuous, and hopefully this will work for at least some time. We obviously will assume that we'll have to keep adapting as things come up, but that's our initial next steps as far as the stickers themselves go. If you go next, we also have some next steps that we've learned from using this barcode system as well, which is that our continued next steps are to increase barcode use. So this is what our disc looks like now, and as you can see, it has a disc number on the top of the sticker, and right now it's a 5-digit number. If you click again, you'll see what we'll be moving towards in a couple of weeks is to use actual barcodes on the DVD. And the reason for this, again, is to decrease that chance of human error. If the brand ambassador takes an image of the QR code, they have the correct business that they're looking up to. But then if they type in the wrong disc number, then that disc number is never going to get associated with the correct volume, which is not going to get associated with the correct content, the correct PSA. We're not going to be able to report back to our partners and our clients. And ultimately, we don't want something happening in the field that we can't report about. So this is one of our next steps, is to use barcodes on the discs themselves as well. This will again also decrease the amount of time it takes for distribution. The survey that will be given when somebody has already been surveyed once and we have that information about the business and the people who frequent the business, the number of female customers, the contact information, all of that, then the next time the brand ambassador shows up, says hi, asks if they would like another disc, and then simply scans the QR code, scans the barcode, hands over the disc, asks any follow-up questions that we may be researching about at the time, and then they're done. We'll go next. And just a few kind of tips, learnings that I've had so far. I am in no ways an expert on this, but I'm learning, and if you have information to share with us all about, specifically about barcodes, as well as QR codes, I would love to hear from others as well. What we learned about QR codes specifically is that sequential QR codes are not actually a common thing. They're not easy to order online. They're not particularly cheap. People use QR codes more as a single product, and if that's what you're doing, they're really excellent for that. So if you want information about a product in general to flash up, QR codes are a really great way to go. We needed these individual, unique ID numbers on each QR code, and we had to shop around. We ended up finding it easier to print them in Uganda than in New York, where the company is based, but I think it'll just depend on you and your needs. I would definitely say to pilot it, not just for reception in the field. It is a weird looking kind of image, and people might have questions about it, but also to test it with different devices. If you're using mobile phones versus tablets, and maybe it reads certain barcodes versus QR codes better. We use Google Goggles as the application, which integrates directly with TaroWorks. When you press Get Barcode, the application opens automatically. There are many apps that read QR codes and barcodes. In terms of barcodes, the first thing I've learned is that there are many types of barcodes. They're all used for various products all over the world in terms of food products or electronics. It looks like we'll be using something called a UPCA or possibly a UPCE barcode. The image on the slide before was a UPCE barcode. Another possibility would be to use this interesting looking barcode that's shown here, which is a code 16K barcode. It probably won't work for us because I want the member ID number to show as well as the code for inventory reasons and for keeping track of what discs go out without having to use the mobile device. However, I did put this out there because I found that TaroWorks reads this code as well. So that's just a little bit about kind of some of the things that I've learned. Again, I'm happy to hear more from you about that. If we go to the next slide, I think we're ready for questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Leah. This is super
And if you
interesting.
want to put up our very last slide if people are interested in any other things that we do. There are some links there.
Oh, got it. Let me. Oh, got it. Oops. Oops. Okay, great. So a couple questions are coming in. Sorry, Leah, could you just mute if you're not speaking? There's an echo. Awesome. Okay. One question. So you mentioned that you lost a bunch of stickers for different reasons. How did you fix that issue? Did you have to recreate the stickers for each of those businesses and like look them up, change the business ID? Can you kind of talk about how you were able to get around that?
Yeah, so first we changed the stickers themselves. And then, yes, essentially what we did is add a question to what was previously the new member form. That is now the new sticker form. And the first question that brand ambassadors fill in is this a repeat business that is missing a sticker? And if it's yes, there are a couple follow-up questions to that. Do they have the last disc? What is the last disc number? Kind of a few things that would help us to find that business in Salesforce so that we can take out the duplicate and merge them. But it is an ongoing problem. It is data that needs actual cleaning, which is certainly frustrating. We have a pretty lean staff, and so that will be an issue. Our very first step in doing that was to change the sticker. It's now been a little over a month since we implemented the new sticker, so it's time to go back and see if that's working any better. But yes, essentially we've asked as many questions as we can through our brand ambassadors to understand if the business is a duplicate in our system, and then to ask follow-up questions that would help us identify where that duplicate is and clean it.
Okay, great. Kind of on a related note, Sarah Hodgson has a question about the other workflows. So Sarah, I'm just going to unmute you. You should be unmuted now. If you could just kind of introduce yourself and your organization and ask your question. Hi, Sarah. Okay, sorry, I'll just ask it then. So her question was, what is the user experience on the app? Are there other workflows being used alongside the QR code scanning? And Leah, if you're speaking, I think you're
okay. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I 100% get the question. But in terms of our brand ambassadors experience with TaroWorks, it's been very positive. We have a few systems that we haven't implemented that we will be doing more of, especially about performance tracking and things like that. But because they were already using ODK Collect, the switch to TaroWorks was relatively easy. The QR codes are part of a larger survey, so that initial interaction with a business owner is giving them a sticker, explaining the product, scanning the QR code, but also asking a fair number of questions, demographic questions, and questions related to the business. So there are, pretty much every other type of question that you can use in TaroWorks is also in that form. I'm not. Does that answer the question?
Let me wait for her to respond. But it'd be interesting also. So you talked a little bit about that initial, like registering the business and then scanning the disc. What are subsequent jobs like?
Great question. So right now, the subsequent job is just repeat distribution. So every 2 weeks, a new episode of Crowd Pullers comes out, and we distribute that volume sometimes to the exact same place, sometimes to new places. But if it's to a place that we've already been once, ever, and the sticker is there, then that's what I was saying. This is why distribution has increased efficiency-wise, dramatically. Because the second form, instead of asking all of those questions again, we just give them the disc, scan the QR code. Right now, follow-up question is a disc check. It was in the schema that I showed you earlier. And we ask what happened to the last disc you were given. And that's to start to give us an idea about how long these are played for, how long the physical DVD lasts. In rural areas of Uganda, it's just very dusty in parts of the year, and the DVD players kind of scratch the discs. In other places, we know that these discs continue to be in circulation, but maybe they don't stay in that business. Maybe they're given to a friend or another business. Maybe they're lost, maybe they're stolen. So that's the first question that we have right now that's the existing member survey job. But going forward with our new research arm, we'll be doing a lot more data collection jobs, as well as view resource jobs in those businesses, as well as potentially making another object of customers that look up to businesses in order to kind of integrate some of the PPI data, understand the customers a little more and not just through the business owners. So there's room for a lot of different sorts of jobs, which will all fit into this same type of distribution system. Initially, this was just to create the platform for that to become a reality. So our director of research started, came to Uganda about 3 weeks ago. So we have only done one larger study since, and the results aren't in, so I'm not going to tell you about it yet. But that will be the kind of work that we'll be doing. But again, it's based on this system of having a database of businesses.
That sounds really exciting, having that director of research come in and do a lot of these other projects. Just curious, now that you are getting at least some information around the business level coming in, have you been able to run reports, or are there any insights that you've been able to produce now that you weren't able to produce earlier, kind of in advance of having the larger researchers, the research projects?
Yes, a lot. Mainly, we're able to take on much bigger clients and have much, larger partner organizations come to us because we're able to report back to them. Ultimately, with any sort of media, NGO capacity work, anything around social behavior change, people want to know if they're having an impact. And with our previous system, we really weren't able to give them the reports that they needed to find that out, or the reports that we needed to find that out. So, now we can give them the list of businesses, how many times they received discs, what messages were on those discs, and we're able to move in the direction of understanding the impact of the messaging. But we're also able to do more analysis on the customers that we previously had to do very anecdotal evidence about. For instance, many partners might want to target women, right? And so in general, in a video hall, you're not going to find as many females. So you might say that you need to target beauty salons. But in fact, the way that we can run reports now, we could decide to target a number of women, and we wouldn't have to distribute only to beauty salons. We could distribute to buses and retail stores and anywhere else that women do frequent as well. But we would know out of the percentage female customers, and based on the number of customers they report, how we would get to that number of female viewership without having to just target only beauty salons. And we would be able to know fairly accurately that we are going to reach that many female customers with those messages without just having to assume that only beauty salons are going to have female customers. And so those are the kind of reporting and tools that we're using right now to analyze our reach, to analyze the types of businesses more accurately. One thing we found out is that, video hauls, even though they're where we started, are actually between 4 and 10% of the distribution that we do. And we wouldn't have known that before, since we could only say how many discs were going to video halls, not how many individual video halls we were reaching.
Oh, that's interesting. Cool. And then you had mentioned at the beginning that one of your goals was to empower your brand ambassadors with this. Can you explain, like, has this happened, or where do you see that going?
Yeah, they certainly like this this way of data collection much more. You can imagine they were going to the same businesses over and over, and they were taking the same long-form survey every time. So they were annoyed, the business owner or employee was annoyed, and we've already asked you this question and you've already answered, but I need to ask you all these questions before I can give you the disc. So they're certainly much happier having to only ask maybe one question if they've already been there. It also has been a great learning process for the team to work through, to understand what we're working towards, this understanding of having a database of businesses because we want to understand the impact that we're having. And since they all believe, strongly in their jobs and in distributing these messages in this way, they're all very excited about the potential of really being able to measure that impact. And they, are able to have more time to reach new areas. They're now having more time to be trained as enumerators for this research capacity. They're becoming experts in this tool. They understand, why there are errors and what needs to be done to correct them, so that we can have a clean database so that they can continue to improve on the work that they're doing. So I think initially we are definitely reaching that goal of empowering our staff. I think as we continue to scale this and to bring in new ideas and new uses for the tool, we'll continue to do that. It's certainly a lot easier to get feedback from them. We've actually sent surveys just through an ambassadors themselves in order to get feedback. And it's obviously more fun than just sitting around and having kind of a focus group with them that allows information to come from the field agents who aren't based in Kampala here. So I would say we are moving in the right direction and have already achieved that goal somewhat.
Sure, that's great. Okay, I think one of the other questions that I know I get a lot is the devices that you're using. And you had mentioned using Google Goggles for the actual scanning app. But I think a lot of questions that I get are, if you're using that kind of tool, like how do you make sure that the camera is working or kind of up to par? So what device are you using in the field?
Right now we use a bunch of different mobile phones. We are currently not using tablets for TaroWorks, but we may switch to them in the future. We use the Samsung Ace, the Young. We have, I can't remember all of the names of them. They're all Samsungs. They're all various forms of small Android mobile phones. The camera is, all of the phones have kind of a child protective app on them, and we have devices to access the camera and Google Goggles, as well as TaroWorks and the calculator and the phone or whatever else, what other applications they need. And really the idea around using the kind of locked app is not because I don't trust the brand ambassadors. It's actually mainly the saved battery, that you accidentally open applications and it just completely drains the battery. And so having, it's actually called Kids Place, but you can rename it so that it has your organization name on it. Having Kids Place open just decreases that accidental use of opening another app that's going to drain the battery. And then we also send them out to the field with kind of mini batteries that are charged. And right now we're testing the ones that have solar charging abilities versus the ones that are just powered through a USB to see if there's really any difference. And if the solar really does work, then we'll probably scale that up. But that's our device.
That's really interesting about the saving battery. I never thought about that. Cool. I have one more question. If there are any last other questions, please put them in. But just kind of thinking ahead, if you're able to do this over, you know, as some of the other people on the call might be thinking about moving forward. If you're to think about doing this over, what things would you change and improve on?
Yeah, I don't know if it would be about doing it over. It's certainly about going forward. There will always need to be improvements. That's just the reality of working in this context. The businesses themselves change. They change hands. They change owners. They change type of business. They're really small kiosks. They're really remote. We obviously, that map that I showed you, we certainly don't all over Uganda right every 2 weeks. So if we are only going to certain areas every few months, the stickers are certainly less likely to be there. There will always need to be kind of native new systems to put in place. So certainly, you know, now knowing that those stickers were kind of too cool, we wouldn't have put so much effort into designing and printing and paying for such a nice sticker. But right now, the stickers themselves are working out the best. I think the audio just went out.
Great. I think that's it then. I don't see any more questions trickling in. So we'll. Sorry, there's kind of an echo. So I think we'll be ending a little bit early. Just wanted to give a huge thank you to you, Leah. This was super interesting. I learned a lot about it too, and I've been working with you. So this is great. I think this would be really helpful for people. And thanks to everybody who joined and asked questions. So with that, we'll be wrapping up, and we will be sending the recording out after.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.